Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we are going to be looking at this incredible new mission, the NISAR satellite mission. It's going to give us a whole new way to see the planet and reveal changes that we've never even been able to see before.
Yeah, this is really like a massive step forward in Earth observation technology. We're talking about a level of detail and a frequency of observation that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago.
Yeah, NISAR is a joint project between NASA and the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISR, and it's set to launch in March 2025 from India. And one of the coolest things I think about this is that it uses something called synthetic aperture radar, or SAR.
SAR is really a game changer because it allows us to see through clouds and darkness. And that's something that you just can't do with traditional optical satellites. And the way it works is it sends out these radar waves, and then it measures how they bounce back from the Earth's surface. So it creates these really detailed images, no matter what the weather is or even the time of day.
It's like a superpower, right? Being able to see through anything. So can you give us kind of a visual for how that actually works?
Sure. So think about like shining a flashlight across a bumpy landscape in the dark. You can kind of tell the shape of the ground based on how the light reflects, right?
Yeah.
So SAR does the same thing, but with radar waves instead of light. So that allows it to see even through really dense cloud cover or even like the pitch black of night.
Wow, that's incredible. And the really cool part is that NISAR is going to be scanning almost all of Earth's land and ice surfaces every 12 days. That is so much data. I mean, what kind of changes will we be able to see happening on that kind of frequency?
Well, we'll be able to track changes in ecosystems like deforestation in the Amazon rainforest, for example. So imagine being able to track illegal logging activities in near real time.
Yeah.
And alert authorities immediately. That kind of data could really revolutionize conservation efforts.
Wow. So we're not just talking about like taking pretty pictures from space. This is data that has real world applications that can help us protect the planet. What else will we be able to see with NISAR?
We'll be able to monitor the movement of glaciers in places like Greenland. And we'll be able to do that with unprecedented accuracy. So this data is really going to help us understand how those melting glaciers are contributing to rising sea levels.
Right.
And that'll help us to inform strategies for mitigating the impacts of climate change.
That is such a powerful application, and it really highlights how, this data can have a tangible impact on people's lives. What about natural hazards? Can NISAR help us with those?
Absolutely. NISAR can help us monitor natural hazards like earthquakes and landslides as they're happening, and it can provide crucial data for disaster preparedness and response.
Wow.
So by tracking these subtle shifts and movements of the Earth's surface, we can potentially get a better understanding of these events before they even occur.
So in a way, it's almost like NISAR is giving the planet a checkup, helping us understand its health in ways that we never could before.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And, this kind of monitoring is becoming increasingly important as we face these growing challenges of climate change and resource management.
Definitely. And speaking of which, NISAR kind of builds on this legacy of international collaboration in Earth observation.
Right.
Earlier missions like GRACE, which studied Earth's gravity field, were also joint efforts. Can you tell us a little bit more about why this collaboration is so important?
Yeah, it really highlights how global challenges require global solutions. So, climate change, natural disasters, resource management, these are all issues that transcend national borders.
Yeah.
And by working together and pooling our resources and expertise, we can make greater strides in understanding and addressing those challenges.
And it's not just about the two space agencies involved, right? I mean, I imagine the data from NISAR is going to be shared with researchers and scientists all over the world, which is only going to lead to even more incredible discoveries and innovations.
Absolutely. Sharing this data openly is crucial. So just imagine the potential new early warning systems for natural disasters, improved agricultural practices, even identifying new sources of renewable energy. This is a mission that could benefit everyone on Earth.
Okay, so before we move on, I have to ask about this whole ground moving up and down thing. I heard that NISAR can actually measure those tiny shifts in the Earth's surface.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
It's true. NISAR can measure movements as small as a few millimeters.
Wow.
And this allows us to study things like plate tectonics, volcanic activity, and even how land rises and falls due to groundwater depletion.
Wait, so the ground actually moves that much? I never even thought about it like that. How does that impact people who are living in those areas?
Well, it can have a significant impact. So changes in groundwater levels can affect land stability and lead to something called subsidence, which is basically the sinking of the ground. And this can damage infrastructure, increase flood risk, and impact agricultural productivity. And by observing those shifts over time, scientists can create these really detailed maps of groundwater resources,
Oh, wow.
which helps us to better manage that vital resource,
Right.
especially in regions that are facing water scarcity.
That's a really important point, especially with these increasing concerns about water scarcity around the world. It seems like this data could be incredibly valuable for policymakers and water managers.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about providing the information and the tools that are needed to make those informed decisions about how we use and protect our planet's resources.
And it's amazing to think about how all these processes you mentioned, like the groundwater and the land stability, the ecosystems and climate change are all interconnected. It really highlights how complex our planet is and how everything is ultimately linked.
Yeah, it's like this giant web where each strand represents, a different aspect of the Earth's system.
Yeah.
And when one strand is pulled or disrupted, it can have these ripple effects throughout the entire web.
Right.
And that's why it's so important to study these systems holistically. And that's really where a mission like NISAR comes in.
I was reading this fascinating article about how scientists are using satellite data to study the impact of climate change on coral reefs. And it's just amazing how we can now monitor the health of these delicate ecosystems from space.
That's a great example of how Earth observation technology is being used to address some of these really pressing environmental challenges.
Yeah.
Coral reefs are incredibly vulnerable to changes in water temperature and acidity,
Right.
both of which are being exacerbated by climate change.
Yeah.
And by monitoring these changes from space, we can identify reefs that are at risk
Right.
and potentially even intervene to protect them.
It's almost like having a global watchtower, keeping an eye on the pulse of our planet. And speaking of those global perspectives, I want to touch again on the importance of the international collaboration in this mission. It's really inspiring to see countries coming together like this to tackle these challenges.
It is. And it's not just about sharing resources and expertise. It's also about fostering this sense of shared responsibility for our planet.
Right.
And this mission really sends a powerful message that we're all in this together and we need to work together to protect our common home.
That's such a great way to put it. It's not just about the science. It's about recognizing that we all have a stake in the future of our planet. And I think that's something that everyone can connect with, regardless of their background or their expertise.
Exactly. We all share this planet and we all have a role to play in ensuring its health and sustainability.
One thing that always fascinates me about space exploration is the human element. Thinking about all the countless scientists and engineers and technicians who dedicated years of their lives to make a mission like NISAR a reality. It's a true testament to human ingenuity and perseverance.
It really is. And it's not just about, pushing the boundaries of technology. It's about using that technology to solve real-world problems and to improve our understanding of the universe around us.
I was reading about this team of engineers who spent years developing this new algorithm specifically for processing the vast amounts of data that NISAR is going to generate.
Wow.
They were working around the clock knowing how important this data was going to be for so many different applications.
Yeah, that's a great example of the dedication and the passion that drives these kinds of projects.
Right.
It's not just a job for these people. It's a mission. It's a calling.
Yeah.
They're driven by this desire to explore, to discover, and to contribute to something that's larger than themselves.
And it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the people behind it, their stories, their struggles, their triumphs. That's what makes these missions so inspiring.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even the most complex technological achievements are ultimately the result of human effort, creativity, and collaboration.
So speaking of collaboration, I'm curious, once NISAR is up and running, how will all this data be shared and used? I mean, we're talking about just a massive amount of information coming in.
Yeah, you're right. It's a fire hose of data.
Right.
But that's where the real magic happens. It's not just about collecting the data. It's about transforming that data into actionable insights.
So how do we even make sense of all that data?
It's a massive undertaking that involves sophisticated algorithms, powerful computing infrastructure, and this global network of researchers that are collaborating to process and analyze and interpret all that information.
It's like having this giant jigsaw puzzle with billions of pieces.
Right.
And we need all these brilliant minds working together to assemble the picture.
That's a great analogy.
And once we have that picture, then we can start to see the patterns and the connections and the trends that would have been invisible before.
Exactly.
And those insights can inform everything from disaster preparedness to climate change mitigation to sustainable resource management.
Yeah.
I mean, the potential impact of NISAR is truly global in scope.
Yeah, it really is incredible to think about the ripple effect that this data could have on so many different fields and industries, from improving our understanding of natural disasters to informing better policies for, sustainable development. I mean, the possibilities seem kind of endless.
They really are. We're kind of entering this new era of Earth observation, one with unprecedented detail and frequency and accessibility. And this is really just the beginning as technology continues to advance. We can only imagine what future missions will be capable of.
So we've talked a lot about the technology and the science behind NISAR.
Yeah.
But I want to bring it back to our listener for a second.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for someone who might not be a scientist or an engineer? Why should they care about this mission? Well, it means that we're gaining a much deeper understanding of the planet that we all call home.
Right.
It means that we're developing the tools that we need to monitor its health in ways that we never could have imagined before. And ultimately, it means that we're empowering ourselves to make more informed decisions about how we live on and care for this planet.
That's a great way to put it. It's about giving people the information they need to become better stewards of our planet. And also, about inspiring that sense of wonder and curiosity about the world around us.
Exactly. NISAR is a powerful tool for education and outreach. It's a way to connect people with science and technology in a tangible and meaningful way. And, who knows, maybe it'll even inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of inspiration, one thing that really struck me while I was researching this mission is the sheer scale of human collaboration that was involved. From the scientists and engineers who designed and built the satellite to the international partnerships that made it all possible. It's really a testament to what we can achieve when we work together.
Absolutely. This mission is a reminder that even in a world that's so often divided by differences, we can still find common ground.
Right.
And work towards those shared goals.
Yeah.
And what could be a more unifying goal than understanding and protecting our planet.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive into the NISAR mission, I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Okay.
This mission represents a huge leap forward in our ability to observe and understand Earth, but knowledge is only as powerful as the actions that we take based on it.
That's so true. Now that we have the ability to see our planet with this much clarity, will we have the wisdom and the will to protect it?
Right.
That's the question that we all need to be asking ourselves.
Absolutely.
And hopefully the insights that we gain from NISAR will help to guide us towards a more sustainable future for everyone.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, and we'll see you next time.